Center for Strategic and International Studies, releasing satellite images, you see some of them there, from a reef in the Spratly Islands. Now, what they appear to show is high-frequency radar installations.
There was a question about the claim at the Carrie Wang news conference a short time ago, and the Chinese foreign minister didn't give details, but said Beijing is contributing to the stability of the region. Here's what Secretary of State Kerry said.
We want President Xi's statement when he came to Washington that there would be no militarization in the islands to be upheld by everybody. And that means, strictly speaking, true no militarization. Now, if a radar is there for, some sort of normal navigation process and there's no missile attached to it, there are ways to work these things out. But regrettably, there are missiles and fighter aircraft and guns, artillery, and other things that have been placed into the South China Sea, and this is of great concern to everyone who transits and relies on the South China Sea for peaceful trade, commerce, and use.
We've heard China say that, listen, this is not about militarizing, it's about purely defense. First off, tell us a little bit more about what we see so very clearly in these satellite photos, in particular these radar facilities.
Yeah, so what we're seeing at one of these facilities, Quarteron Reef, which is the southernmost of China's occupied features, are a series of poles that are about 20 meters tall, laid out in a grid, and what they seem to indicate is a high-frequency, maybe an over-the-horizon radar that would significantly boost China's ability to monitor and, intercede in events happening in the southern portion of the South China Sea, which has been the biggest, I think, need if China wants to extend full control eventually over the 9-dash line, as they call their claim, to most of these waters.
All right, so for the uninitiated amongst us, I mean, everybody can look at a surface-to-air missile battery and say, well, that looks a bit threatening. What is the threat posed by radar installations, particularly as they spread throughout those islands in the South China Sea? What does it mean strategically?
Well, radar by themselves aren't a threat, but radar are a piece of a puzzle here that includes missile batteries, as you heard Secretary Kerry pointing out, farther north and on Woody Island and the Paracel Islands, fighter deployments. When you look at the expansion of Chinese radar capabilities throughout the South China Sea and combine them with these 3 large runways, military lanes runways that were being seen built on surrounding islands, with future, probably further missile batteries, then you'll see a larger Chinese strategy of establishing effective control over the sea and airspace here in what China has insisted are its historic waters.
So clearly they're moving full speed ahead with this strategy. What do you expect? Do you have any hopes that would come out of this, excuse me, meeting between Secretary Kerry and Wang Yi? I mean, just a few months ago, you had President Obama meeting with his Chinese counterpart, and Xi Jinping told him, look, China will not militarize the South China Sea. So what gives? I mean, what can stop China?
The only thing that's going to stop China here is Beijing making up its own mind, that it's hurting its own international image, that it's bringing on untoward costs for a nation that keeps claiming that it's a responsible rising power who deserves a bigger seat at the table when international rules and norms are made. And yet, on the other hand, we see a power who's flagrantly flaunting international law, especially the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, and is bullying its neighbors whenever its national interests are brought into question. So unless we can keep adding reputational costs to China, which is what the U.S. strategy has really been geared toward, while at the same time deterring outright aggression, then we're not going to have a hope of resolving this at a cost that I think the international community can live with.